hospital shooting that happened in New Hampshire. This happening live out there in Concord, New Hampshire. Let's listen in.
Working security at the hospital's front lobby entrance around 3:30 p.m. Bradley Haas served for 28 years at the Franklin Police Department, started as a patrol officer, and rose to the rank of Chief of Police. He is also a U.S. Army veteran, served for 3 years in the United States Army. Chief Haas was already a hero when he walked into work yesterday, given his service to our country, to our state, and to his community. But he will now be remembered forever as a man who died protecting patients, staff, and visitors at New Hampshire Hospital. So we cannot say enough how grateful we are to him for his service, and words cannot express the condolences that we would like to send to his family, friends, and loved ones. I also want to say a word about the trooper who was on scene at New Hampshire Hospital yesterday. We are going to follow our typical protocol, and we will not be releasing the trooper's name until we've conducted a formal interview. But all indications are that the actions of this trooper saved a lot of lives, and that this trooper's actions were heroic. So I just wanted to make sure we say that today about the trooper who was on scene at New Hampshire Hospital. Investigators have worked hard through the night, and we can now identify the shooter as John Madore. John Madore was 33 years old at the time of the shooting, and he was most recently transient. So he had recently stayed at a hotel in the Seacoast area. We also know that he had spent some time living in the Concord metro area. Beyond that, we're still gathering facts and information, and we will work to gather additional information about Mr. Madore and why he did this and what led up to this tragic incident yesterday. The autopsies for the shooter and the victim are being conducted today by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, and we will release the results of that autopsy, or those autopsies, as soon as we have them. I want to express my immense gratitude on behalf of the entire law enforcement community to all of our law enforcement partners and first responders who assisted at the scene yesterday. Those include, of course, the New Hampshire State Police, the Concord Police Department, the Concord Fire Department, the Merrimack County Sheriff's Office, State Office Complex Police, and our federal partners, including the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and ICE. At this point, there is still a lot of investigative work to do. We are shifting now into a homicide investigation, and so we would ask anyone who has any information about Mr. Madore or the incident yesterday to please call the State Police Major Crime Unit. The number is 603-MCUTIPS or 603-628-8477. Again, I just want to express my heartfelt condolences to the family of Chief Bradley Haas. He is truly a law enforcement hero, and we will never forget what he did to protect our state and his community throughout his career and protect the staff and residents and employees at New Hampshire Hospital yesterday, dying in the line of duty, giving of himself to protect all of us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Mark Hall for some additional updates.
Good morning. My name is Colonel Mark Hall, Director of the New Hampshire State Police. And first, on behalf of the men and women of the State Police, I want to extend sincerest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Mr. Haas. As a fellow Department of Safety employee, he was a colleague and a longtime law enforcement partner. Yesterday, November 16th, at approximately 3:40 p.m., State Police Communications received reports of shots fired in an active shooter in the lobby of New Hampshire Hospital at 36 Clinton Street in Concord. A state trooper who was assigned to the hospital and already on campus responded immediately, and the trooper shot and killed the suspect. Additional troopers from the state police, including our SWAT team, responded to sweep this and secure the facility in the surrounding area outside. Members of the Concord Police Department, the State Office Complex Police, the Merrimack County Sheriff's Department, and the Concord Fire Department also responded. Our federal partners from the FBI, ATF, and ICE also responded and provided additional resources. During the sweep, a U-Haul was discovered running in the parking lot. That vehicle initially appeared suspicious, and the State Police Bomb Squad was requested to inspect it. After approach, the U-Haul, using a robot, the State Police Bomb Squad investigators determined the vehicle did not pose a public safety threat. However, located within the U-Haul were several items of concern, including an AR-style rifle, a tactical vest, and several magazines of ammunition. The investigation into the shooting, including any determinations regarding the suspect's motives, remains ongoing. Investigators have determined that the weapon used by the suspect was a 9mm pistol with additional ammunition. The state trooper who engaged the suspect was not hurt, and pursuant to protocol, the name of the trooper is being withheld pending the conclusion of the formal investigation. Although I am not able to comment on the specifics of this investigation at this time, I am extremely proud of the trooper's actions that without a doubt prevented additional loss of life. The State Police is thankful to all the agencies that have offered assistance throughout this incident, and we continue to support our colleagues' family, fellow employees at the New Hampshire Hospital as they try to cope with this situation. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Governor Sununu.
Morning. Thank you, Colonel. Attorney General Formello. Obviously, we want to first start by honoring Security Officer Bradley Haas, as the Attorney General mentioned, an absolutely dedicated public servant and state employee who gave his life protecting patients and staff at New Hampshire Hospital. Prior to his service at New Hampshire Hospital, he served as 3 years in the U.S. Army as military police, 28 years as an officer in his hometown of Franklin, New Hampshire, rising to the level of the Chief of Police, and ultimately as a security officer with state police. Yesterday's shooting was a tragedy, and thanks to that rapid response and the mobilization of a New Hampshire state trooper who was assigned to New Hampshire Hospital, the incident was contained swiftly. Within minutes, law enforcement from multiple agencies were on scene and working to secure that entire campus, and I just want to thank these dedicated professionals for their swift response and their continued dedication and service in protecting Granite Staters. Make no mistake, if not for the heroics and sacrifice of Bradley Haas, the bravery of the New Hampshire Hospital staff, the unflinching response of New Hampshire State Police, this tragedy, it could have been much, much worse. New Hampshire owes a debt of gratitude to them all. I'm now going to turn it over to Commissioner Weaver for more details.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. Our hospital experienced an unthinkable tragedy yesterday. An armed individual tried to enter our facility, and a beloved state employee lost his life protecting our patients and staff. We mourn the loss of Bradley Haas, a security officer dedicated to New Hampshire Hospital's mission of helping people. We extend our deepest sympathies to his loved ones. Our hearts are heavy with shock, grief, and sadness. As we mourn and process what has occurred, we also want to express our deep gratitude through the big and small acts of heroism that transpired over the past day. This includes quick and decisive response by our New Hampshire State Police colleagues, the Concord Police Department, and all other local emergency responders. I'd also like to take a moment to thank volunteers from the Department of Health and Human Services and Homeland Security Management who remained on campus to deliver meals to our staff and residents last night. Your support of our patients and staff in New Hampshire Hospital has provided comfort and solace. It also includes all the people I am proud to call colleagues who are carrying on to keep the hospital running. Our New Hampshire Hospital staff have not wavered for one moment. They have demonstrated courage and skill as the incident unfolded, following the protocols for an emergency of this type. They have delivered skilled and compassionate care without interruption. This has been a traumatic incident for the hospital, our law enforcement, our first responder colleagues, our department, and our wider community. We are providing numerous mental health resources to our teams as they try to process and heal from this difficult event. We have also set up a call center for the patient's family and staff. The number is 603-271-3004, 271-3004. And I'd also want to remind the public that any person experiencing emotional distress can get help and resources by dialing 988. We will carry on Most aspects of hospital operations are normal. However, this event has disrupted our visitation abilities, and we are actively working to reestablish our visitor entrance. Patients are actively communicating with their families via telephone, and we are hopeful that the visitation will resume soon, as we know family members and patients are eager to visit with their loved ones. As the investigation remains active, we kindly ask members of the media to respect the privacy of our staff at New Hampshire Hospital as they come to and from work. As I walked through the hospital last night talking with staff, I was struck by how calm the environment was and how strong staff appeared despite the horrific event that had occurred just hours earlier. I have no doubt that the New Hampshire Hospital's team's steadfast commitment to their patients contributed to keeping those in our care safe both during and after the event. We are reminded today of what an extraordinary team they are. Thank you.
So again, just want to express thanks to all of our law enforcement partners who, as the governor said, responded swiftly and contained the situation yesterday. It could have been much worse. With the situation contained, we are now shifting into the next phase, which is a homicide investigation. So we're still gathering facts. We still have a lot of investigative work to do. That means we'll be limited in the information we can release, but we are going to take a few questions. Yeah.
How quickly did the trooper shoot the shooter after he shot the security officer?
I don't have the exact time, but it was very, very quickly.
Can you spell the suspect's last name, please?
The suspect's last name, Madore.
And John, John.
Yes. Yeah.
You found there was weaponry found in the van, that the shooter's van?
We believe so, yes, but we're still gathering information and facts. So there's a lot we can't confirm, but yes.
Do you have any other indications that he was trying to commit a mass shooting based on the evidence and all the weapons that you found in the U-Haul?
That's information I can't get into at this time or release, and again, that's mostly because we are still investigating, gathering facts, gathering information, so I don't want to prejudge that.
What information do you have that links Madore to the vehicle?
Again, I can't get into specifics, but I can tell you we've gathered a lot of information over the last 12, 15 hours. We'll be gathering more today, and we'll be in a position, I think, to have a more solid conclusion on that. But all I can tell you is that we've gathered information to tell us there may be a connection, but beyond that, I can't comment because we're still gathering facts. We're still sifting through this. And so it's important not to prejudge this and jump to conclusions before we've had a chance to gather all of the facts, all the information, and evaluate it.
Do you know anything about the whereabouts of the suspect in the hours heading to the shooting?
That's not information we can release right now, but information we're continuing to gather as we conduct this investigation.
Do you know when and where the U-Haul was rented from?
Again, that's information I can't get into now. We're still gathering it. We're still evaluating it. As the investigation goes forward, we'll develop more solid information on questions like that.
Native residents, anything like that? Do you know?
Like I said, he was transient, so he'd certainly spent most of his time recently in New Hampshire. Had lived on the seacoast for a time. Had recently lived in the Concord metro area. But beyond that, we're still looking to track that information down, and I can't get into those specifics. Again, that's information I can't release at this time. We're still, again, gathering it, evaluating it, and as we conduct the investigation.
Was the security guard Mr. Haas armed?
No.
Is there a reason for that?
It wouldn't be typical for that position to be armed, working the security in the front lobby. Not as part of this role that he was fulfilling at New Hampshire Hospital. No.
Could you elaborate a little more on that role? Exactly what were his duties, and at what time did he actually begin that role after being a police chief?
So he has been in that position since 2019. I can't get into right now the specifics of exactly what his role entailed, but he'd been in the position since 2019, and we're still looking to gather, like I said, the facts and circumstances about what he was doing that day, the timeline that led up to this, all of the information surrounding the incident.
The state trooper was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Have you been treated at the hospital
Madore, again, that's information I can't get into right now. We're still gathering that, and we're still evaluating that.
Where was the state trooper positioned at the time? And he was also part of the security detail there, the two people who were part of that? So how close was he in terms of the lobby? Where was he positioned in his role?
Well, he engaged right away, so he was certainly, from a physical space perspective, right near the incident. He had just begun his shift.
Were there any other people in the lobby or any witnesses to the shoot?
There were several other people in the lobby.
Do you know how many times Madore fired the 9mm?
I don't. I'm not going to get into that type of specific information.
Several of you credited the trooper with saving many lives. What are the indications that Mr. Madore was trying to do? Was he trying to get into the hospital? What would have happened if that trooper was not there?
So as far as what he was trying to do and motive, again, we can't get into that now because we have a lot of information, facts to gather on that front. I do think it is safe to say that without the actions of Bradley Haas and without the actions of the trooper on scene, as we've said, this could have been a lot worse. So I feel safe in saying that the actions of the trooper and Bradley Haas saved a lot of lives yesterday.
Could he have gotten into the hospital if they had not stopped?
It's certainly possible.
Did he get past the metal detectors? How did he get inside of the gun?
He did not get past the metal detectors, so he was engaged before that.
As far as you know, in the investigation, was he a lone wolf? Or did he act alone?
We're still in the early stages of the investigation, so those would be one of the questions we're looking to determine. But again, we have a lot of investigative work to do here. This just happened yesterday. Investigators have worked through the night, going to continue to work through the day and the days ahead. There's a lot of information and facts still to gather and evaluate, and this happens in real time. So, we can't prejudge anything. We can't rule things in. We can't rule things out. We need to gather the facts and conduct a thorough investigation.
But nothing that the public would be concerned about right now in terms of their safety.
We don't have any information that would lead us to believe that there's any threat to the general public at this point stemming from this incident, no.
Still, after an event like this, there is a possibility of a copycat. Is your thought of the police implementing a strategy?
Law enforcement is always on alert and always prepared to address incidents like this. But yes, at a moment where you have an event like this, we are cognizant of the fact that we need to be on even higher alert for any type of copycat incident. But we don't have any information that would lead us to believe anything like that is going to happen. But I think it's important to make clear that law enforcement is always prepared to respond to an incident like this. In this case, this situation was tragic, but there was an armed law enforcement officer at the scene prepared to respond immediately. And as we've said, that response saved a lot of lives.
How many staff and patients were inside the hospital at the time, and specifically inside the lobby at that time?
So there were several inside the lobby. I don't have exact numbers on how many individuals were inside the hospital.
What was Mr. Haas able to do to help before he was shot? Was he able to alert others, try to stop Mr. Madore? How did that play out?
So I'm not going to get into those specifics. We're still, reviewing video footage, still trying to determine exactly what happened. But I think it's safe to say that the presence of a security officer almost always will slow down any intruder, even if it's just because that person is present. So Mr. Haas died protecting the patients and staff and visitors at New Hampshire Hospital, and there's no question in my mind that we were fortunate that he was there.
Were patients or visitors in the lobby?
There are several individuals. I can't get into whether they were patients or visitors. We still have a lot of work to do to interview witnesses, whoever was present, and so I can't tell you at this point exactly who those individuals were.
Quick follow-up: the state trooper, that's his role, his full-time position, is he protecting the hospital? That's what he does.
That is a regular assignment for him. Yes.
You mentioned video. Is there surveillance video of the incident?
There is footage of the incident, which we still have to review and look at and evaluate as part of the investigation. But yes, we do have video footage.
So this is common practice. Can you explain the assignment of troopers at hospitals? Is this across the state? Just kind of give us an idea of what this role is and how common or uncommon it is.
So I can't get into sort of how common it is, but I will say New Hampshire Hospital is a secure facility. So this was a normal procedure to have a trooper assigned there. That's a regular occurrence. Yeah.
Are you commenting in shooting last night in Manchester? I think the press release said it might be an accident also, but the person died on the hospital.
The shooting last night in Manchester, yes. So I don't have any information I can release on that beyond what we've already put out. That happened in the early hours of the morning, and that's an active homicide investigation as well. So I cannot, I should say it's an active suspicious death investigation. There's been no autopsy completed. So there's no additional information I can release on that at this time.
Do you know how Madore obtained these weapons? Did he obtain them legally? Is there any information about where they came from?
That's not information we can release at this time, but we're going to continue to work to gather and evaluate that information.
And for the hospital, did they alert staff when this happened? When did that go out? What was the communication there for the hospital?
So I can't get into the exact time of communication to staff and employees, but I can tell you that not only did law enforcement respond quickly, we were in immediate communication with Health and Human Services, with the Department of Safety, and there was quick communication. There were actions taken to keep people safe, and I think that is borne out in the fact that this situation was contained very quickly.
Was the suspect known to police? Can you tell us anything more other than that he was here in this area, other than he's 33 and been moving around?
Again, it's just not information I can comment on because we've just identified him. So we have a lot of work to do to really figure out who this man was, why he might have did what he did, what led up to this incident.
Was there a door where somebody would be needed to be buzzed in that he would have had to have gone through to get into the other patients? A door where you get buzzed in to get in to the main area. Is that part of the formula here?
So I'm not going to get into the exact layout of the facility. I mean, it's a secure facility. So obviously there was security present at the front lobby. There was a trooper on site. So it's a secure facility. Yes, he would have had to get through a metal detector. He would have had to get through other obstacles to get into the facility, but he was engaged right away and stopped in the lobby.
Are you collaborating with any police departments in the New England area?
We, at present, we're engaged with our state partners here, so state police, federal partners, so like I said, the FBI, ATF, ICE, the Concord Police Department has been assisting, the Merrimack County Sheriff's Department has been assisting. Whether we need to work with law enforcement partners in the region will depend on where this investigation takes us. So we certainly will if we need to, and we have great relationships with our law enforcement partners throughout the region.
You know when he was in the, you said previously he was in the Concord area, exactly when or how long he'd been in the seat?
So because he was transient, we don't have that exact timeline, and that's information we wouldn't want to release right now anyway, because the nature, given how early this is, given the fact that he was transient, we have a lot of work to do to nail that down.
How much information can you provide about his criminal history? And how did you identify him as the shooter?
So I can't get into that. That I'm not going to get into those specifics of the investigative steps we took to do that, or the information that we've gathered. All I can tell you is that we are confident in the identification that this was John Madore.
Is he known to police?
Are you saying was he known to police prior? Again, that's information I can't get into right now.
Mr. Haas, was he still living in Franklin currently?
I believe so, yes.
Do you have anything about family, wife, children, anything like that can you get into?
His family has asked for privacy, so I really don't want to lay out his family tree here. His family's asked for privacy, and I really want to respect that.
Children?
Again, I want to respect the privacy of the family. He does have children, but I don't want to get into names and lay out the family tree.
In the weeks, in the weeks after the shooting in Maine, there was a spike in homicides and shootings. Can you say something for the community that might be worried that something like that can happen?
Yeah, so I'll say this. New Hampshire is I think, the safest state in the country, and we have one of the lowest homicide rates in the country. We have one of the highest solve rates for homicides in the country. So certainly understand that in the wake of Lewiston and in the wake of the shooting yesterday, there may be concern in the community, but I can tell you we have the best law enforcement in the country. It's a very integrated law enforcement. Every law enforcement officer goes to the same police academy. We work very closely with county attorneys, with all of our state and local law enforcement. We're in communication with them regularly, and this state is safe. It's the safest state in the country. Again, one of the lowest homicide rates. So while I understand that there might be concern in the community, like I said earlier, we don't have any reason to think that there's a threat to the general public stemming from this incident, but that doesn't mean we're going to let our guard down or be complacent. We're going to investigate this thoroughly, and we will do what we always do in the law enforcement community, and that is be proactive and stay on alert to protect the state.
Did Madore have any connection to the hospital?
Again, I can't get into that.
Is there a reason to believe at this point that security needs to be stepped up at other hospitals in New Hampshire? Is that something that's happening?
So I'll say New Hampshire Hospital is unique in that it's a secure facility. We don't have any reason to think that there's a heightened level of threat at other hospitals in the state. But as far as again, any other information related to the incident remains under investigation. We still have investigative work to do.
Was it a full hospital? Consensus on that?
I don't have the exact census, so don't have that information for you.
Just an idea, and I don't know if the commissioner can talk more about the hospital and the facilities. Following up on that question, is it a 185-bed hospital? How many entrances? Just to kind of get an idea of what the facility actually looks like and the vulnerabilities of the building.
So, not to speak for the commissioner, but I don't. We're not going to get into information to lay out, a blueprint or plans of the facility and vulnerabilities. What I can say is this: we're going to take what we've learned. This is a tragic incident, right? One incident like this is too many, and we're all going to work very hard to think about whether there's anything additional we need to do to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. But at this point, it is very early on in evaluating exactly what happened here. But I don't think we should be getting into a layout of the facility. I don't think that's in the interest of public safety. All right.
If you're just now tuning into Live Now from Fox, they are wrapping up that official presser out there in Concord, New Hampshire. The latest information in relation to that tragic situation and the hospital. We know that it occurred Friday. The victim of the New Hampshire hospital shooting has been identified as Bradley Haas, a 63-year-old New Hampshire Department of Safety security officer who was killed while working security at the hospital's lobby entrance. We know the shooter was immediately engaged by a New Hampshire State Police trooper assigned to the hospital, and he was killed. Again, you just heard the latest information.